Can you hear me, Chris?
Oh, 1 second, please. Can you get back? Yeah, I can't hear you. I just have to get to the screen. All right, well, hello everybody, good morning.
Good morning. So I'll step aside. You can see your audience to some degree. There are about 40 people here today.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to be there in person. I see, and by the way, I was looking at my picture out here. It looks like I'm coming to you from the Amazon jungle or something. I'm in a hotel room in North Dakota, and there's all kind of beautiful plants here that just ended up being the right place to do it. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be there. As I mentioned to you, I live in Appleton. I've lived in Appleton my whole life. I live just off Evergreen by Thrivent on the north side of the town. So Appleton in general on the north side of town is an important thing to me as well, and I want to be as helpful as I can. But what I want to do is give you an idea a little bit about why it's so difficult to find people, but more importantly, what we can do to find them, and having an opportunity to kind of evaluate your own efforts, your own job search efforts might be a good place to start. So, man, I'm going to give people a really quick assignment on their phone. And did anybody, in the beginning of the presentations, I asked people to go on their phone and take a look and try and find their job ad without using the name of your company. Was anybody able to do that?
There are a couple hands.
Yeah, so can the people who did that, thank you for doing it. By the way, it's the very first step in auditing your own process. My job seekers can't come to a company that they don't know exists, and we put a job ad out there and we make the assumption once it's out there that everybody's seen it, that you know, and when nobody responds to this job ad we posted, well then, right, then it's all true. Nobody wants to work, and all those darn millennials went to school for their French art degree and are now living in their parents' basement on their couch delivering pizzas to each other as they grow up. And clearly that's not the case, because you already have great millennial and Generation Z employees. And so what I'm asking people to do is kind of audit their own process to see if they're able to find their job without using the name of your company, because the vast majority of my job seekers have no idea your company even exists. Right? My job seekers are go to whatever's right in front of them. They are not cruising the industrial parks to find your company or walking through office buildings trying to find your company. So if they can't find you and understand how they find you more than other people, then we're just figuring out how we're competing in the marketplace. So what did you see, please, when you went looking for your job ad?
We were number 5. I asked for a teller position in my area.
So one was number 5. They were looking for a teller position in their area. Maybe I can walk around with the mic and see if you can still hear us okay.
Yeah, no, I can totally hear you. It's really helpful, Matt, that you repeat the question. Thank you. So the first thing you want to do is remember in the presentation you want to ask your current employees those 5 questions, right? I don't want you to do this in theory. This is not some clever marketing laboratory you're trying to set up. You're going to ask the last 3 people you got those 5 questions. What job were you in before you came to us? What changed in your life that caused you to need and start looking for a different job? Number 3, what words and what search engine tools did you use so that you can understand how the algorithm works? Right? In the past, one of the issues is somebody my age and for some people in the room, we waited for the Sunday paper to come out, and if there was nothing in the Sunday paper, then there's nothing we can do until next week. That's not really the way the search happens today anymore. Number 4, what words and phrases did that person use and put into that search engine or algorithm that led them to your job? And then lastly, why did they choose to apply for your job instead of the other 4 competing job ads? So there's work involved, and in the past, we just had to post a job ad in a line form and people came to us, and clearly that's not working anymore. But you have had success. And the question is, you know, if I asked you how you got your last 3 great customers, I bet you could tell me the whole story. I bet you could tell me who their vendor was. I bet you could tell me why they became unhappy with their vendor. I bet you could tell me how they found you, who referred them to you, and why they chose your company over all the other competitors. My question is, what could you tell me about those things for the last 3 people that you hired? So we've got some research to do. yourself some notes about why would you apply to your job ad instead of the other form. All we're doing is auditing how you're competing in the marketplace. And so what you're going to find out likely is two things. Number one is that your job ad looks just like everybody else's job ad because you may well have used a free job search site. Like Monster and Indeed, it was very efficient to use a job search site because it was free. Well, the way they made it free was they made you fill out a format in the exact same format they're making everybody else fill it out so that they don't have to have a person interact with you, which guarantees that every job ad looks the same. My job seekers would tell me that when they go looking for a job and they look at all the job ads, it's like they're staring down the aisle of vanilla ice cream where all the ice cream looks exactly the same. And the only thing that's different is the price. And so I want you to remember this idea that when you write a job ad, the goal is to sell the first conversation. We talked about this a little bit in the presentation, but I really want to focus here is I want you to go back and look at all of currently have, revenues you have for your products and services. And look at the format. That format very likely says, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you broke up a little bit there, but I think you're back.
Okay, thank you. So, every marketing piece you have, whether it's a handout you give people or parts of your website, probably starts with this format. If you have this problem, is the top part, the middle box, then we have this solution. And the third box is, if you use our solution, your life will get better this way. Why in the world wouldn't we write job ads the same way when it's been successful with us selling products and services for the last 40 years? Job ads are about selling the first conversation, not the job. That worked for 40 years. But again, you and I both were selling ice water in the middle of the desert. We couldn't get it wrong. And so I want you to think about how you write a job ad that says, and go interview your own people and say, why were you unhappy enough in your last job to start a job search in the first place? Every one of my jobs, the 27,000 of them I've worked with over the last 17 years, every one of them starts with them being unhappy. We are not trying to bribe happy people with, to leave their happy job and their happy friends and come be happy with us for more money. Everybody's job search starts with being unhappy. And so the first top of your ad should talk about, if you're unhappy for this reason, boy, do we have a solution for you. And again, where do you get the idea of why they're unhappy? You interview your own people and ask them why they were unhappy enough to decide to leave all their friends and all their knowledge behind and start a search out for a new job. So that is the first most, for your entire staff, that's the best exercise I can give you to figure out how you're competing in the marketplace and whether people are unwilling or unable to come to work for you.
Chris, I think you've given us a lot of good suggestions, and I see some people have their phones out, and they're doing those searches you talked about. I know that we have some questions. Would you mind if I just kind of hand the mic around and we hit you with a few?
I love that, thank you.
All right. Mary, I think you had your hand up first.
I had my hand up and Matt wrote it down, and so now my questions are, I can't write them. Yeah, so one of the questions, Chris, was about hiring bonuses, and it was talking about unhappy people leaving. And so I work in Chilton with a lot of manufacturing firms who have all started offering sign-on bonuses, and then people earn their bonus and leave. So is there any difference that sign-on bonuses play, or is it just sort of part of the whole process of unhappy people moving?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The question is, what is the role of sign-on bonuses? So I'm giving you my opinion, but it's a pretty strong opinion based on a long time with a lot of job seekers. Sign-on bonuses are what people do when they don't know how else to do, what else to do. Hiring bonuses are a bribe, right? And so if we didn't have enough customers, we wouldn't give them a sign-on bonus to do business with us. What I want you to do is do audit work first, so I'm not in favor of hiring bonuses. I think it's what we do to bribe people to come. If you're doing it, I'm not critiquing you, I'm just telling you, you did what you knew how to do at the time, but now that you know how to build a persona of your ideal applicant and how to get to them, and you're auditing your own system, did we use hiring bonuses because we really thought it was a great idea and we've seen it work in other parts of our business, or because we didn't know what else to do? Because if people will come for money, they will clearly also leave for money. That's how you got it.
Thanks, Chris.